Chair Seelig, thank you so much for joining us today. This hearing couldn't have come at a better time. In recent weeks, we've seen countless news stories about individuals making massive profits in prediction markets on bets related to national security. For example, bets on whether Ali Khamenei leaves office before March 1st, 2026, whether the U.S. would strike Iran by February 28th, whether the U.S. confirms that the pilots in Iran were rescued, and when the U.S. would announce a ceasefire with Iran. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an article from April 9th from the Washington Post titled, "Prediction Markets Are Back on the Spotlight, this time because of the Iran War."
Without objection.
Just recently, the White House warned its staff not to engage in insider trading on prediction markets. I'm sure you agree that this is highly concerning and it endangers national security. I'm hoping you can help clarify the seriousness of this issue, and I'm not trying to play gotcha. I hope we can work together to crack down on these illegal and dangerous bets. So I'm going to ask you a few ethics-related questions, and I'd like you to provide a yes or no answer, please. Should any government official be allowed to use classified or non-public information to profit on prediction markets?
Congressman, it is illegal to utilize any non-public information to trade in our markets when you're misappropriating that information.
Okay, so I'll take that as a yes. No, sorry. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Could a senior official with advanced knowledge of military operations use prediction markets in a way that could incentivize decisions that endanger service members or compromise national security?
Congressman, as I said, it is illegal to trade on inside information.
I'm not asking about the legality. I'm asking how the markets can be used.
Well, Congressman, markets have been used to engage in fraud and manipulation, insider trading for centuries.
Okay, so I'll take that as a yes as well. If someone with insider knowledge places a large bet right before a military action, could adversaries monitoring these markets be tipped off to what's coming?
Congressman, of course, there are instances where bad actors are going to engage in abusive trading practices. The purpose of the CFTC...
I'm just asking, actually, if people monitoring the markets can use that information, bets, to discern what's going to happen.
Congressman, of course, there are instances where people could obtain information. It is illegal for them to utilize that to engage
Again, I think that's a yes, simply. And look, I served 25 years in the Army, and some of these accounts were opened within days and weeks, and bets were placed within 24 hours of some of these actions occurring. And 24 hours in a military operation is a lifetime. It's a lifetime to either remove highly enriched uranium, it's a lifetime to replace and place air defense assets. So this is, in fact, a serious threat to our national security. So you've said you want the U.S. to be a markets capital of the world and that we're watching every trade. Will you commit to robust enforcement ensuring anyone trading on government or military information is held accountable regardless of their political party?
Congressman, as I've said countless times today, we have a zero tolerance policy. That's zero tolerance. That means that we will hold whoever is engaging in fraudulent, manipulative, or insider trading activity accountable to the American people.
Well, I think what this boils down to, and I'm going to give you credit for agreeing with the fact that these are dangerous issues related to national security. So I appreciate your commitment to holding bad actors accountable and hope to work together to crack down on anyone endangering our national security and our troops with these types of bets. That's why I sent a letter to Polymarket last week instructing the company to preserve and share with Congress all information related to suspicious bets on national security matters that may link to government officials. I ask unanimous consent to enter my letter into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Chair. So we need to find out who's placing these bets, no matter how high level or well-connected they are, and hold them accountable. Finally, my office is currently drafting legislation to increase penalties for officials convicted for illegally trading on events contracts with national security implications. Such a measure is necessary because the pattern of massive prediction market stakes in the hours immediately before U.S. forces deploy or take action is alarming and dangerous. And I would hope that if you, in the event that you find that there's wrongdoing, are prepared to immediately refer these matters to DOJ. I look forward to working with you on this matter. Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. Now recognize the gentleman from Alabama, Mr. Moore, for 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Seelig, thank you for being with us today. I'm proud of the work that this committee did on the Clarity Act to help give digital assets markets the rules they need to grow in the United States. A lot of that responsibility is going to fall on CFTC, obviously. Can you talk a bit about how the Commission is getting ready for that authority and how you're working with the SEC now to build a clear framework that can last into future administrations, and also so we do not need to back up regulatory information by enforcement?
Thank you, Congressman, and I applaud this committee's efforts to pass bipartisan crypto asset market structure legislation. As I've made very clear multiple times today, I believe that this is absolutely essential for the country to lead in innovation, and I am very supportive of this legislation. It's been too long in the United States where we've pushed innovators offshore, we've regulated by enforcement, and the lack of clarity around the asset classes just caused it to really languish here in the United States. I think that legislation's key both to identify what's a security and what's not, and have some certainty in the statute as to what is subject to the SEC's authority and what's subject to the CFTC's authority. I also believe it's very important that we register these platforms under a federal regulatory scheme. There has been a patchwork of different state licensing arrangements under the money transmitter laws of various states, as well as the virtual currency business laws that have been newly enacted, and some states have no laws whatsoever. And so having a federal scheme that's uniform across the country is really essential to protect consumers that are using these crypto assets every day.
And certainly, Chairman, we appreciate the work the Commission's doing to bring more clarity to digital asset markets. The one thing I hear from a lot of folks in the space is a concern that software developers and people building blockchain infrastructure could once again be caught up in regulation by enforcement under a future administration. Can you talk about what the CFT is doing to help build durable framework that protects people who are simply building software and not holding customer funds, so we do not go backwards a few years from now?
Absolutely. One critical endeavor that we have supported over at the SEC has been the codification of an interpretation on what's a security and what's not. And the CFTC signed on to this interpretation, so it was done through a joint rulemaking, and it clarifies the SEC's view as to which types of crypto assets are securities and lays out a very clear taxonomy. And it also has an interpretation related to the Howey test, which has been really the bane of the industry's existence for so long because of the many judicial opinions interpreting the definition of an investment contract. And so this is laid out very clearly as to how the SEC is looking at things. Now we at the CFTC have a view as to what's a security and what's not, and we're starting to implement things like tokenized collateral relief, clarifying the status of stablecoins and how that can be used within our registrants. And so it's really critical that we start to clarify things in the interim, but legislation can help lock it in for the long term, and that's why we're so supportive of that effort.
And I appreciate you, again, taking time to appear before this committee. In the words of your March 3rd ex-post, POTUS is right, the Clarity Act must pass, and I agree. We need future-proof market structure now so America can lead in the world in innovation under President Trump. I want to conclude my time by encouraging my colleagues in the Senate to pass market structure. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
The gentleman yields back. Now please recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Carvajal, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Thompson, and thank you, Chairman Seelig, for being here today. You have a tough job. Chairman Seelig, as you are aware, concerns continue to grow over the use of prediction markets to wager on outcomes involving elections, government activity, war, and other geopolitical events. The CFTC's lack of enforcement on betting in these contexts poses clear risks to public safety, national security, and has fostered conditions for potential insider trading. It has become so concerning that even the White House has warned its staff not to engage in such trading on prediction markets. Congress has previously identified categories of event contracts that may be contrary to public interest, including terrorism, assassination, wargaming, and illegal activity. Chairman Seelig, do you believe event contracts related to these categories I mentioned are contrary to public interest?
Congressman, we're approaching this issue through rulemaking, and we've put out an advance notice of proposed rulemaking, so I won't prejudge the outcome of that process, where we're receiving input from stakeholders throughout the country on these issues, but we will take those comments into consideration and make sure that we're adhering to the comments and putting rules in place that are going to address these concerns.
In your view, are there subjects that should be clearly off limits for prediction markets?
Well, Congressman, again, I'm not going to prejudge the rulemaking process. I believe that in a free market, it's really important to have access to financial tools, hedging tools, risk management tools, and a broad range of different types of commodities, as our statute's designed, of course, with a very broad definition of commodity. But I won't prejudge the rulemaking process. We're going to take all the comments and make sure we get the rules right.
Chairman Seelig, it is alarming and concerning to see advertising that sports betting is legal in California. I know the tribes and the people of California would disagree. Voters rejected 2 different sports betting propositions in 2022 in one of the most expensive ballot campaigns in U.S. history. But now these platforms are operating in California with little oversight, offering wagers on tribal lands. What steps is the CFTC taking to ensure that derivative markets are not being used to offer gambling-style products outside established state and tribal regulatory systems?
Congressman, I think it's very important to distinguish between when you say gambling-style products and derivatives. Derivatives are a type of financial instrument, and as our statute prescribes, they can be traded with a broad range of different underlying assets. And it's very important that we continue to oversee these markets comprehensively, whether the market is a sports-related derivatives contract, a political derivatives contract, or a derivative on corn or grain. These are derivatives instruments. They trade on federally regulated exchanges with order books, with clearinghouses, and all the investor protections that you would expect for very sophisticated financial markets. So we will continue to enforce our statute, but of course, it's critical that we get input on potential rulemaking in the area of prediction markets, as there are some unique considerations around retail participation in these markets, among other things.
Has there been any instances of fraud that you have found to date?
Well, Congressman, I can't speak to any particular investigation or the details of investigations, but we are investigating insider trading, market manipulation, fraud, and so on and so forth in these markets, just like any other. And the exchanges are doing the same. I believe Kalshi has now called out 2 instances of insider trading, market manipulation in their markets, and fined participants in those markets.
Chairman Seelig, with the increasing number of questionable trades taking place as recent, there are growing concerns that those placing these bets may have insider knowledge, whether it's the trade in which a user reportedly earned over $400,000 by correctly betting on Nicolas Maduro being out of office just hours before the operation, or the account that made hundreds of thousands of dollars by wagering on the U.S. striking Iran, and or the removal of Ali Khamenei. These incidences raise serious concerns. Many Americans hear about these trades, which appear to resemble potential insider trading, but hear little about what the agency is doing to hold those involved accountable. What steps, concrete steps, are you taking other than general statements to find these people accountable?
Congressman, they will be held accountable. We are ramping up our enforcement program. We have an excellent director of enforcement in David Miller, who is both former CIA and former Southern District of New York prosecutor, and he will be building out our team, and we are a cop on the beat. We'll make sure that those who engage in bad activities are held accountable.
Thank you. I yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. I recognize the gentleman from Iowa, Mr. Nunn, for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Chairman Thompson. And thank you, Chairman Seelig. You bring a wealth of experience, both at your time at the SEC and certainly at the Commodities and Future Trading Commission. Guys like me back home in Iowa, we appreciate this, because here's the reality. I've got a host of 87,000 farm families who wake up every morning not knowing what corn or beans is going to look like until the closing bell. And that is what they look to the CFTC to be a leader in. And just as a point of reference here, corn's at $4.56 a bushel, and beans are up to $11.65. We're going to hopefully jack that up before closing bell today. Look, the reality here is that I'm encouraged by your early focus on reducing regulatory burdens, but I want to make sure that we keep the plow pointed in the right direction, as it were, because farmers and ranchers deserve the CFTC that stays laser focused on market integrity, accessible hedging, and protection against manipulation. So as you get to work here, we want to be part of your team as you march out with the Ag Committee. Now, as we represent a number of farmers who depend on future and option to mitigate risk, I was glad to see that you have relaunched the Agriculture Advisory Committee. That is a direct investment, making sure that ag continues to be at the forefront of what the CFTC is doing. It's meaningful, and it signals that you're headed in the right direction. I'd also like to make sure that all of the discussion today has been on prediction markets for the most part. I want to hear from you. Where does farm and production commodities rank as a list of your top priorities?
This is the top priority. The CFTC grew out of the Department of Agriculture. We have our roots in that community and will continue to service it. As I said, the agriculture community will always have a seat at the table in this administration.
That's exactly what I want to hear, and I know that makes our farm families very happy to hear because we've had a great relationship with the CFTC moving forward. I'm going to transition to something that my senior senator, Chuck Grassley, who 20 years ago I had the privilege of working with, has made it his #1 priority, and an item we're working on together. This is the Whistleblower Fund. Now, Chairman Siegel, Senator Grassley has worked to strengthen the CFTC's whistleblower efforts, and whistleblowers who have done everything right, challengingly, have not been paid, some waiting more than a year for the award from the office itself to determine what they were owed. Pro rata payments and authorities exist for exactly this situation, so we can call out bad actors and recognize those who are doing the right thing. I'd like you to come alongside me here in committing that you'll use that authority today to help make sure that whistleblowers are compensated when they do the right thing.
I believe strongly in our whistleblower program. I'm always concerned that there's a risk of retaliation if, when people are fearful to come forward because they're going to be retaliated against. And so we've got to protect that fund and make sure we're continuing to pay out whistleblower awards.
I'm heartened by that, and I'm also heartened by your staff, who I know is also fully committed to this as well. We want to make sure we're all doing the right thing. When it comes to your background in both the SEC and CFTC harmonization, I'd like to say thank you for reducing the duplication between these good markets. Could you talk to us a little bit about one of the top areas where you feel you can move the most rapidly in eliminating inconsistent requirements under the existing authorities before you?
Absolutely. One area that we're keenly focused on is substituted compliance. So for too long, duplicatively registered entities such as a broker-dealer, FCM entity that's both a broker on the SEC side and on the CFTC side have been strangled with these different regulatory requirements. And working together, we can knock out some of these requirements that are duplicative or inconsistent in some cases, still making sure there's no gaps, but working closely together to make sure that we're harmonizing our rule sets, and in some instances, relying on one regulator as a primary regulator so that we're not putting too much work on one regulator versus the other. It's important also to recognize that there are areas where we can free up capacity to more effectively regulate new registrants as opposed to working on duplicatively regulating the ones that the SEC already regulates.
And I think that will help not only eliminate the duplication, but also the timeliness in which we can execute on that. So that is a encouraging hearback. Look, I'll end with this. Small Iowa producers are facing higher costs, fewer intermediaries, and complex products. As you talk about vertical integration and market structure reform, from your perspective, whether it's a hog farmer in Altoona, Iowa, or a row crop grower in Red Oak, what does that actually deliver to the little guy with this type of integration?
Well, this is critical for everyday Americans. When you're using the derivatives markets to hedge risk, you have to go through an intermediary, and the more regulation we have on these intermediaries, and some of them, as I mentioned, are both CFTC and SEC regulated, so the more duplication and kind of regulatory burdens, that gets passed down to the market participants, the farmers, the ranchers, the producers, and then the consumers who are buying their goods. So this is going to make our markets better, and it's going to reduce costs for everybody.
Keep up keeping the farmer first. Thank you very much. I yield back my time, Mr. Chair.
Gentleman's time has expired. I now recognize the gentleman from Illinois, Ms. Jonathan Jackson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Thompson. Thank you, Chairman Seelig. As you know, I'm sure Section 342 of the Dodd-Frank authorizes the Office of Minority and Women Inclusion at all other financial regulators, including the SEC where you previously worked. The only federal financial regulator without a statutorily authorized OMWI is the CFTC. At previous hearings before this committee, former CFTC Chair Russ Benham explained how the CFTC's OMWI had improved the agency by establishing partnerships with minority-serving institutions in rural colleges and universities. Given the good this office has done, it is a shame that your predecessor, Acting Chair Carolyn Pham, appears to have done away with the OMWI. It no longer appears in the CFTC's website, the Outreach for Minority and Women Institutions, or on its organizational chart, or at least as a separate office. I ask you the question, are you willing to return the Office of Minority Women back to the CFTC, or do you support the outgoing acting chair's actions?
Well, Congressman, it's very important that we're accountable to the taxpayers and that we're using our resources and staffing the building effectively. So, of course, we're considering each office, making sure that each office is performing an important role, and so I would certainly evaluate that. It's not something that I've evaluated yet, but we're very happy to consider that and work with your office to review it.
Would you be willing to comply with the statutory compliance of other offices in the financial regulation?
Well, Congressman, we're bound by the Commodity Exchange Act, and so to the extent this is not something required in our statute, of course, we're not going to create new statute out of thin air. That's Congress's job.
Thank you. Let me reclaim my time. I thank you for that. As we talk about the greater transparency that the CFTC wants to do for robust price discovery, the mechanism, the careful development of derivative products, now we're going on to the predictive markets. We're talking about supporting hedging without undermining the market integrity. Talking about the liquidity, supply chains, and I used to trade at the Chicago Board of Trade, so I'm very familiar with this. You're currently the only commissioner at the CFTC, correct?
That's correct.
And previously there were 5 commissioners. Is that correct?
At times there have been 5, at times there's been 1, there's been 2, various numbers throughout the years.
Considering the enormity of this job, do you feel that you could potentially be overwhelmed?
Congressman, I am performing the role in a very effective way. I'm not concerned about the lack of commissioners, but of course, this is a decision for the president, and to the extent he appoints additional commissioners, I look forward to working with them.
In the swap markets alone, there's over $400 trillion of notional value, and we're looking at, from all the sophistication with critical minerals and supplies, how would you say you prioritize how you look at the markets and the regulation necessary every day?
Congressman, I'm lucky to have a large building filled with lots of dedicated career civil servants, and so we are comprehensively looking at the markets, whether it's critical minerals, energy, agricultural products, or new digital assets and prediction markets. We perform our role to make sure that the markets are well functioning in all asset classes.
Thank you so much. Do you foresee any potential crisis on the horizon that we may be confronted with in this new world of rising energy costs as well as conflicts?
Congressman, what's important is that we're surveilling these markets. We, of course, are a cop on the beat. We're making sure that to the extent there's any sort of threats to the markets, whether it's fraud, manipulation, insider trading, we're policing that. Systemic issues, of course, we're working together with our counterparts throughout the government, the SEC, Treasury, and other regulators to ensure that there's not a threat on the horizon, but we have to be vigilant because there's always a risk.
Well, just like we have price discovery, the Office of Minority Women and the inclusiveness, that was for talent discovery, that too often these corridors have been segregated because of culture, because of history, because of time. And if we're going to recruit the best, have the best, I think that it would be of a great value to yourself and to this nation if you embrace the previous work of the Office of Minority Women and Inclusion to have more talent discovered There may be people that can offer more talent that will come from untraditional avenues that could serve our nation well and serve your department. On that, I yield back. Thank you, Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. Now recognize Dr. Baird from the state of Indiana for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here today with you. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for being here and sharing your input with as we make these kind of decisions. But anyway, my question deals with this. Back in June of last year, the previous acting chairman announced a one-year extension of the commission's current headquarters lease and a new headquarters in Southwest DC to come online this June. And so that's just about 6 weeks away. So would you mind giving us an update what the status is of that new lease and the new headquarters?
Congressman, unfortunately, under the prior administration, there was a focus on rethinking office space and a culture of work from home and flexible hours. And the president has been very clear that it's back to the office and has said so through executive order. So we're focused on working together with GSA to identify a proper office space that's going to be able to house as many of our workers as possible. We want to make sure that we're close to 100% in line with the president's executive order. So we're working hard to identify a proper office space, and we'll be moving in as soon as we are complete with that process.
So I understand from that you're still moving ahead. It's just you're getting lined up with the rest of the requirements.
Congressman, we are able to stay in our current space, and we're evaluating new space for the future. But rest assured, we'll make sure that we have adequate office space so that everyone can be in the office that wants to be.
So let's turn to another area then. I represent a rural district where agriculture is the backbone of our economy. Our farmers depend on stable, transparent commodity markets every day to manage risk and stay in business. And so we're also home to Purdue University, a leader in agriculture and data-driven research that helps shape the future of these markets. Given my background in science and my district's deep ties to both production, agriculture, and innovation, I'm particularly interested in how the Commission's balancing its focus on emerging markets like digital assets and new trading structures, and while continuing to ensure that traditional producers have a fair access to reliable risk management tools. And so with that, my question deals with how is the CFTC ensuring these markets remain transparent, liquid, and free of manipulation?
Congressman, we take this responsibility very seriously. We've got to comprehensively surveil our derivatives markets, whether it's markets for digital assets, grains, metals, or anything else. We don't discriminate on the product. We're making sure that the markets are well surveilled, and we're policing fraud, manipulation, insider trading in all of these markets. We are working to ensure as well that innovators are able to develop their software systems here, build their new markets here in the United States, rather than pushing that off through enforcement. So part of our mandate is responsible innovation, and we're considering tweaks to our regulatory scheme to accommodate these new technologies. But rest assured, we are surveilling, we're making sure that the markets are well functioning in all asset classes.
So I'm glad to hear that, because you recognize how important, you're dealing with farmers' lives when you're talking about and their income and livelihood. So I'm glad to hear that. One quick last question. How is the Commission then working with Agriculture Advisory Committee to incorporate real-world feedback from producers into the regulatory prospects?
We're working together with the agricultural community as a top priority. We have, for the first time, actually, it's very surprising, put out an agriculture webpage on the CFTC website, and we're soliciting feedback from the full spectrum of participants in these markets, and farmers, ranchers, and producers are regularly coming in to meet with us. I have appointed a senior agriculture advisor in my office. We've also built out, as you mentioned, the Agricultural Advisory Committee, which provides a more robust venue for people to provide commentary to the commission through reports, we're also taking regular meetings with these folks in my office and throughout the building. So it's very important that all of the agricultural community feels welcome back at the commission. We're here to help and take feedback on all manner of issues.
Thank you, and I must tell you, you can share that I had a lot of producers that came to the Ag Day that the president had. They really enjoyed it.
Gentleman
yield
yields
back.
back. Now recognize the gentlelady from Connecticut, Ms. Hayes, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today. In December, the Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection issued a cease and desist order to Kalshi, Robinhood, and Crypto.com for conducting unlicensed online gambling, specifically sports wagering in Connecticut. States that have legalized sports betting have regulatory frameworks to protect the integrity of the sports wagered on, as well as consumer protections such as resources for gambling addictions. The DCP Gaming Director, Chris Gilman, stated, "These organizations were